Hello, welcome back everyone. I know this is my first video in a bit of just me talking. So thank you to everyone who's listening, who's watching, whatever it may be. Big shout out to Tech World, special shout out to Tech World. My guy has been commenting and, whatever, giving me feedback, giving me positive feedback, encouraging me since the start. And he did ask me to give my thoughts on this topic. So this one's for you, Tech World. Appreciate you. Thanks for the support. All right. So today we're going to talk about kind of this roster for the March window. Without stating the obvious, is the most important window of them all. We could either qualify for the World Cup or fail out of the World Cup for the second year in a row. Now, knock on wood, I'm hoping that does not happen. I'm expecting that does not happen just because we are very talented. We're in a good position, second place, but we do have to play Mexico away and Panama, who is in fourth place right now. So it's like not an easy, end to the qualifying. So we'll kind of go over the roster and give you my thoughts on if I think this roster is talented enough to make it to the World Cup in 2022. Snubs, all that type of stuff. We're going to pull up the roster. So here's goalkeepers standard. There's not really any, big changes other than Matt Turner is not included instead of Ethan Horvath. But Ethan Horvath, I think, honestly may have been called in regardless, even if Matt Turner wasn't hurt. In that situation there, because he's now getting consistent minutes with Nottingham Forest. Ethan Horvath is, and he's playing very well. So I think even if Matt Turner didn't get hurt, I think he may have gotten called in. So pretty standard there. So that's just, we can move on. Now the defenders area is where we're kind of, getting some eyebrows raised and stuff like that. So obviously the biggest there's two guys that were included that are like, a little confused, and that would be Aaron Long and Eric Palmer Brown. So Eric Palmer Brown is fine. Like he's a decent defender, but I'd say there's three guys that I think deserved it over him and Aaron Long. Like Aaron Long, he's been hurt. He's not even barely played over the past 6 to 8 months. I can't remember because he got hurt. I can't remember the exact injury now, but I don't think he deserves to be called in. It's like, when you have guys like John Brooks and even Cameron Carter-Vickers. Cameron Carter-Vickers has been playing very well for Celtic, and he doesn't get called in. And then you have a guy, Aaron Long, who has barely played over the past 6 to 8 months. And then you have a guy named Eric Palmer Brown who hasn't gotten called in I can't even remember. It's been at least a year, if not more. Like I can't remember the last time he's been called in. So that's just the two biggest, question marks in the defenders. And then at the time of recording this, Serginho Dest is now hurt, and George Bello replaced him and not Joe Scally. So it's like, I don't know what Greg Berhalter's thinking there. Now, I will say, I'm hoping Aaron Long and Eric Palmer Brown will not even get minutes necessarily. My thinking is will be Miles Robinson and Chris Richards, Miles Robinson, Walker Zimmerman, and then Anthony Robinson on the left, and most likely, I guess, Reggie Cannon or DeAndre Yedlin on the right. I'm thinking I don't really have a preference either or. I'd say maybe DeAndre Yedlin is slightly over him in that sense, but either way, it's like fine. Obviously, you're not going to have the talent for that, Serginho Dest has, because Serginho Dest is just elusive, electric. He's fantastic. So there's that. Midfield, I'd say similar to goalkeepers. Obviously, there's not really any crazy snubs there. Weston's not included. That's because he's hurt. There was some talk for a bit that people thought Johnny Cardoso was going to get called in, which I think that would have been a decent call in. If we're being realistic, if he was called in, he probably wouldn't have even played. Maybe in like the final game, let's just say we qualify before the final game, which I'm hoping that happens. I don't know exactly the point breakdown what needs to happen for us to qualify early. I think it's possible that we qualify even if we win against Mexico, if some other stuff happens, but yeah, so midfield's fine. I don't love that Christian Roldan, that he's still there. I don't know. 31 caps, like I'm looking at the thing, 31 caps, 0 goals. So I don't know. I think there's definitely other guys that maybe deserve a shout in the midfield. But at the end of the day, as long as he doesn't play consistent minutes, I'm fine. If we qualify, like I said, if we qualify early, it's fine. He can play, literally can start. So all I care about is qualifying. I'm sure everyone here that's listening, that's all anyone cares about. The United States men's national team qualifying for the 2022 World Cup. Because if they don't, then it's tragic. It's like, really, it's tragic because we have so much talent. But yeah, I'm curious to see how the midfield adjusts now that Weston's not there. I don't know if I'd say I'd have a preference of who starts in his place. I think maybe Luca De La Torre, maybe Callum Acosta. For the Mexico game, I actually would have zero problem with Callum Acosta starting, just because Callum Acosta he's a big game player, which is interesting because he doesn't play well in games that he should play well in, and it seems like he, plays out of his mind in the games that's like hard, difficult competition. So that's great. So I'm glad that Callum Acosta played up to the level when we played Mexico. He, and he had that great game. Now I'm blanking what it was, but he had the great game in the last window. So I'm fine with Callum Acosta starting. Luca De La Torre has been in really great form, so I'm fine with him starting as well. I'd say maybe for the Mexico game, I'd prefer Callum Acosta just because of his track record with the Nations League final and the Gold Cup final. And so, yeah. And, it was the Minnesota game, I believe, that Callum Acosta played well because the game in Minnesota. I think because maybe Weston was suspended or Tyler was hurt. I forget, whatever it was. He came in and played really well. So, yeah. And then for the forwards, it's like, it's okay. It's just typical Greg Berhalter doing Greg Berhalter things. You got Aronson, Areola, Ferreira, Jordan Morris. Jordan Morris is like, I didn't think he was getting called in again. It's like he got the start in the game against, it was against, is in the, why can't I'm blanking, but it's the game in Minnesota, the freezing cold game, and now I'm blanking on who we played that game, which is not good. That's my job to know who we played, but I can't remember. But my point is, he came in, did nothing at all. So I didn't think he would get called in. It's not like he's playing out of his mind in the MLS, so I didn't think he would get called in, but I know Greg Berhalter is very high on Jordan Morris, so it's something that makes sense, I guess you could say. Ricardo Pepi, fine. It's, he's great. When he came in this first window, he played fantastic. Obviously, he hasn't scored since that, first great start that he had. But, he deserves a spot still. Captain America, Christian Pulisic, that's great. He's just never not going to get called in unless he's injured. Gio Reyna, which is great. It's honestly fantastic to see. This is the first time he's been called in since September window because of his injury. Now, I'm not expecting him to get a lot of minutes just because he hasn't necessarily been playing a lot. He got in as a sub the last 2 games for Dortmund, but I'm kind of expecting he's going to play minimal minutes. Jordan Pefok, which he is in the form of his life for young boys. So I'm very excited that he is in this camp, and he deserves the start over anyone at the striker position. He's in fantastic form. The striker position is back up for grabs. Ricardo Pepi had it for a couple months, but it's back up for grabs. Someone just needs to perform and, take the reins of that position and forcefully take it and just say, this is my position. I'm going to go in. I'm going to score goals. I'm going to assist. And up to this point, except for that little short stint with Ricardo Pepi, no one has done that. So I'm excited and hopeful that Pefok is going to be able to do that. I will say, so Josh Sargent wasn't called in. I wouldn't necessarily call him a crazy snub because it's not like he's playing out of his mind. He had a stretch right after the January window where he was playing really well, but it's not like it's a crazy snub. It's not like he's playing out of his mind. He's playing well. But I think when you take into account the other people that were called in, like Jordan Morris or Paul Arriola, I would have taken Josh Sargent over either one of them. But it's also like you can't be overly mad just because of the fact that it's not like he's scoring goals like Jordan Pefok is. So that's kind of what I have to say. Now, to answer the question of, the point of why I'm making this video, I'm breaking down the roster, but I'm also asking, is this roster the roster that is going to win or get us to qualify? And I say absolutely. So if we're being real, this roster is not terrible. It's like you have guys that should be in, but it's the guys that are quote unquote snubbed. Are they even going to be playing? If Josh Sargent was called in, would he play? Probably not. Maybe as a sub. It's like, if Joe Scally was called in, would he play? No. John Brooks? No. Cameron Carter-Vickers? Probably not. John Brooks is the only guy of the four that I mentioned that might have played. So it's like, if we're being realistic, we're going to be fine. We're going to qualify and we'll be fine. This roster is good. It has all the key guys. It's not like someone that was a regular starter last window is now left out that wasn't, and it wasn't because of an injury. So Weston McKennie, I think we're going to definitely feel that, but I do feel confident in Callan Costa and Luca De La Torre in their abilities. So basically now we just have to wait and see if they play to their capabilities. This roster has all the talent to qualify, and they should qualify, and it is a failure to the United States soccer as a whole if they can't qualify, because in reality, they're arguably the most talented team in CONCACAF in terms of a lot of different factors. They have the most depth, I think, of anyone in CONCACAF, and they have the highest ceiling of anyone in CONCACAF. Right now, Canada is the best team in CONCACAF, if we're being real. I know this is the kings of CONCACAF, and I believe the United States is the king of CONCACAF, but in reality, Canada is the best team right now. So we need to start playing like the true king of CONCACAF, like at the levels we were playing over the summer. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. So if you are listening, I appreciate you. If you're watching, I appreciate you so much. I am ecstatic for this game next Thursday at the Azteca, 10 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, I would love to hear your guys' feedback on how you think that game's going to go. I think the other two games are going to go. Yeah, please leave a like, share, subscribe, whatever. If you like my content, lots of stuff coming soon. Thanks so much for listening, and I will talk to you next time.